Good evening, and welcome to We the Village, produced by Ron Hall. I'm your host, Sharonda Allen, and today we have my co-authors of a book, #HelpMe, A Parent's Guide for Navigating the School Experience Through the Eyes of Educators, Teachers. And this evening we have myself, Sharonda Allen, we have Adela Washington, and we have Kimya Jackson. And we want to give you a wonderful back to school episode where we help you and your students to have success at school and at home. So for this episode, we want to start with various ages, phases, and stages. I first want to talk about from birth to preschool. And I want to have Ms. Jackson to talk to us first about how parents can prepare their children for success at home and what would help best for success at school.
Well, in preschool, birth to preschool, it's always great to read to your child every day as often as possible, to have words labeled on different things around the home so they can identify the different words and things. But in daycare, outside of preparing a child academically, there are other things that you should be aware of. In daycare, you have a lot of different children, a lot of different people coming from different homes and things. And what we found with parents who are just starting out with their children in these facilities, the children become sick at an early stage in maybe like the first month or two. So we encourage you to make sure that you take home their belongings every Friday or, on a constant basis to launder them. Simply because bacteria can be held in these different things like their blankets and toys and things of that nature. So along with academics, which is very important, we also have to be cognizant of the child's health, especially if they're just entering an environment where they haven't been around or exposed to a lot of children previously.
Okay. In the book, I talk a lot about the parenting teams. And as you ladies know, we're blessed to have my mother join our parenting team. And it's really important for us to keep a schedule. So everybody has to be very clear with the schedules. And I think with birth to pre-K, that's one of the most important aspects, is just to make sure that your child has a schedule, make sure that it's as predictable as possible. We've had a lot of changes in our family. So we've tried to just make sure that we put whatever is going to make our children the most comfortable in place and keep that consistent. So as far as just dropping them off and picking them up, we try to keep those times consistent, keep the homework time, the snack time, those kinds of things consistent. We've had a difficult time trying to figure out snack that we send to school. Mm-hmm. At this point, we are at cheese and crackers. Okay. Granola bars can be tricky because of all of the allergies, so sometimes we'll send them if it's possible. And even like sliced vegetables and fruits can be good, and we've been doing well with that so far. But I think if you let your child choose some healthy snacks, then it makes the day go by a little bit better.
Absolutely. I would like to add that when your children are in preschool at that early phase and stage, they are encountering new people, new social interactions, new identities for themselves because they're accustomed to being the baby most of the time at home and getting their way. We have to also talk to them about cooperating with others, with sharing, with taking turns. And also we have to ask lots of questions when our children come home, every age, of course. But in preschool, what did you do today? Have them recall certain things. Make sure that we teach our children about being clean and washing their hands so that they do not bring germs at home, back to the home, or even ingest those germs on their hands because they are first encountering these various germs. And it helps to build their immunity. But also be aware of certain signs, extreme fevers, extreme eye changes, extreme changes of the mouth. Some sicknesses may be basic or common, but others, because sometimes we have meningitis scares and whooping cough that we have coming back, resurfacing, which is weird because we have diphtheria immunization, so how are they still getting sick? We also have to realize that in order to keep our children healthy, we have to give them the proper nutrition. We can give them cheese, but sometimes We have to know whether our children are lactose intolerant, or if they're sick, whether that dairy product is going to create more mucus to exacerbate an illness. So maybe we have to make sure that we give them more fruits and vegetables. We're giving them to them, but try not to give them processed foods, because their nutrition will help them to not be as sick or to recover more quickly at the daycare center. And we have to make sure also in our child's development while they're in preschool or daycare that they are meeting and reaching particular developmental milestones. Are they exhibiting the proper dexterity? Let's monitor those types of interactions that they have and their movement, and make sure that they are on pace.
I wanted to add one thing.
Sure.
In case you're homeschooling your children, you still want to try to keep up with the milestones. Not keep up, but just understand where your child should be at that age. So spend plenty of time with other kids, get a chance to go outside, let them run and play and interact. I'm sure they'll be participating in lots of classes and that type of thing, just so they can socialize with kids their age and practice with this sharing, because it's not easy. It's difficult for them at that age, and they need as much practice as possible.
Absolutely, because when they're used to mine, every toy belongs to them.
Yes.
So when they go to daycare, it's like
they're not ready.
They're hoarding the toys. Like, no, these are supposed to be mine. I'm here. So all these
change.
toys should be for me. They should all be mine. So we have to encourage those sorts of behaviors and those interactions. And we have to model, see, we're sharing, and talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for you parents as well, another topic with daycare and preschool, there's a lot of separation anxiety that may happen, more so for the parents than the child. So I know that now my children are very old, 23 and almost 20, but now in preschools I know that there's security cams and things of that nature where you can watch your child, and you can always phone into the school. But be mindful of your emotions and how you share those emotions with your child, because when you leave, your child is in a new environment and they have to become adjusted at some point, because they will be entering a school system, a kindergarten school system at some point. So they need to be able to separate themselves from you and feel confident that they'll be okay. So you might want to work on separation anxiety within yourself as well as with your child.
Absolutely. That's a major thing. I remember going to kindergarten myself, and as we go into K through 3 phases, I remember crying and not wanting to leave from my mother in kindergarten, because I had been in preschool for so long and I was used to those new people, those older people, and now to have new people, new students, new teachers, it was uncomfortable for me. I wasn't ready, but we have to find ways to comfort our children. So let's go to Kimya with the K through 3rd grade preparation for success at home and in school.
So with elementary children, to prepare them for success within the home and school, like I said, with birth to preschool, constant reading, constant enhancing the vocabulary, introducing your child to a dictionary, an actual handheld dictionary, so they can learn how to find words in alphabetical order, having supplies ready for them at home. Like there were summer projects that probably had to be done. You should always have a wealth of poster board, markers, crayons, pencils, a pencil sharpener, because I'm finding that a lot of children don't have pencil sharpeners these days. So a pencil sharpener, all things where your child is not only doing academic things because the school has asked them to, but also give them an outlet to be creative and to build. Always have a lot of paper, a little reading station. It could be in your kitchen or in the bedroom. But make sure that you have things available for your child, so when they want to do something beyond just their regular homework assignment, or when they want to put the video game down, they have a way to be imaginative, and give them tasks to help them problem solve, because that's a big piece I've noticed is missing within school and at home. A lot of children don't know how to problem solve. Like, give them a task to simply make a sandwich, or give them a task to make their own breakfast. How do you do this? What are the steps to have a successful breakfast? Because we have to make sure that our children are always thinking on a higher level and evaluating tasks, or simply synthesizing, well, this is what mommy and daddy do. This is how I can do it for myself. So a big part of being successful in elementary school and throughout is to be able to problem solve and to critically think and to have materials available at all times.
One thing we've had to do was to have no electronics during the week. So we're not allowed, our kids are not allowed to have the electronics Monday through Thursday. They're not allowed to watch TV. But it works out for us too, because by the time we all get home, we sit down, we eat dinner, and actually they do their homework before we eat dinner, and then, we eat. By then, there's no time. If they were to try to turn on the TV at that point, it would be a struggle to get them to turn it off in order for bedtime. So we try to eliminate electronics. It is difficult. It is, but we put other games in place. We have puzzles. They have things that they can take out on their own. And then we establish quiet reading time before they go to bed. And they love it. They sit, they go to their beds, they have their books. They have 3 or 4 books that they can thumb through. And then we, just end with talking about the day. We sing, we do those kinds of things. But I think it's important to try at least to cut down on the electronics during the week.
Absolutely. So along with that, we have to make sure that we give our children structure in the home, that we are regimented and we have those particular rules. Even if they spend 1 hour watching a cartoon or show in the evening, there are some shows that maybe family shows that we could watch together after dinner, during dinner. But we have to always make sure that our children are somewhat regimented, especially at those early ages. We can't just let them stay up all night and watch television, or to stay up all night playing games. I know a lot of children are dealing with these at-home video game systems, and they cause so many problems for exhaustion at school the next day. It does start in those early grades. And one of the things that we should focus on with that structure is character education, teaching them to be responsible, to be honest, to be trustworthy. Can we trust them that they're going to go into their room and not pull out the Game Boy or the PlayStation system? Are they going to be able to be good citizens where they clean up after themselves at home and at school? Because when you're in a school environment, you're in elementary school, early elementary school, are they going to know that their school environment is just as respectable as their home environment? Will they understand that they have to be patient and tolerant with others? So we have to model those sorts of behaviors for them at home. So, and give them opportunities. For example, when we talk about the problem solving, we have to give them examples about cooperation. We have to give them, as even with preschool, but on another level of sharing and caring and having empathy for others. Okay, because not only do we have to deal with their academics, we have to deal with who they are as individuals, their character, who they are as people, because that sets the foundation for their personality. And we have to correct behaviors that are inappropriate at those phases and stages, because kids may see things on television that are ridiculous. I was watching a cartoon the other day, and it was bizarre. It was violent. It was on Nickelodeon. And I said, well, whose kids are going to be watching this? I mean, this is, if a small child in first grade would come to school and actually quote the script from this cartoon, they would probably be sent to the principal's office. So even when we turn on those particular channels and they watch those shows, we have to say, okay, maybe I shouldn't let them watch this. It's a cartoon. A lot of characters are pink and funny, fun looking and fuzzy, but it's inappropriate. And when we do see those behaviors, we have to correct them, because our children have to be cognizant of how they interact with others and who they are as people and their character.
I wanted to go back to one thing you said about the children having their own personalities. Well, my daughter is very talkative. Now, when I was her age, I was very quiet and shy, and I didn't have the confidence that she has. So I'm happy that she's talkative because, she feels comfortable doing that. But at the same time, she cannot get in trouble in school for talking. So we've had to have a family meeting. I had to address it from my standpoint. I'm a little firmer with this situation. And then, we have other people in the family who are her trusted people, who she knows, her aunt, who she can talk to about these kinds of things and kind of let it all out, who's not mom or dad or even grandma. And I think it's always good for kids to have that other, either aunt or uncle or that trusted person that they could talk to about these kinds of things.
Absolutely. That's important for them to also build good relationships with other family members at that age and stage. So let's go to 4th through 6th grade. That's a time where they're beginning to reach puberty. So that changes a little as well.
A lot.
So,
Yes, it changes everything.
Ms. Jackson, let's start with you.
So I did want to talk about parents being involved, and that's birth all the way through, but especially with fourth grade and middle school, particularly, because as Sharonda just said, puberty is right there, right in front of you, and a lot of times the children are teetering on what's still babyish and what's not. They're dealing with their identity and who they want to be, and along with that comes the topic of bullying. Now, bullying may start, earlier than that for some, maybe kindergarten, a little here and there, but when you have this change and the shift in who you are as a person and you're struggling with how to deal with it, a lot of times your insecurity just falls through and you push that onto other people. And that's where we see a lot of bullying taking place, when you're not secure within yourself. So there's that PG that you see on movies, that rating, and that's parental guidance. This is the time where your children truly, truly need that PG. They need that parental guidance, not just for films, but for who they are. They need you to peer in and notice those changes and actually comment and talk about the changes you may see, because they may be screaming out for your attention and your help to help them through situations, but they may not ask for it. They may not directly come to you and say, I'm struggling with being pudgy and having baby fat, and people are calling me fat. How do I deal with this? Or I'm struggling with the fact that I'm not wearing the latest clothing, even if I'm wearing a uniform, because I hear a lot of parents say, well, my children don't have to worry about bullying over clothes because they wear a uniform. But we all know that sometimes we can add a little extra to a uniform. We can make it a little different to look a little more special or not be as hip. So this is the time where they need your PG, your parental guidance, to just come in and talk to them. Talk to them as a parent, as a confidant. Not so much a friend, but as a confidant, and share your experience that you had as a child. So they know that you're not just this adult who does not understand, because you'll hear children say that a lot. Oh, you don't understand, you haven't gone through this. Just because I didn't have a cell phone at 10 doesn't mean that, you weren't social and didn't bully. So be very mindful of their changes, their hormonal changes, their image changes, even the music that they listen to, or just the simple dances they do. Things change in middle school, so be ever so aware of what they're doing, and make sure they know that you're there to not to pounce on them, but that they need to know that you've seen the change.
Right.
I think one thing to add is that at this time, the kids are starting to become embarrassed to say that they're being bullied.
Yes.
It's actually becoming not cool to say, I'm being bullied, or to say there's a problem. So a lot of times they don't want to go to a teacher. They don't want to go to a parent. I think this is a good time, like you said, to really just talk, and really listen. Listen and hear what they're saying. Be aware that sometimes it could be their friends who are doing the bullying.
Yes.
Right.
And it may be somebody who they played with for years. So be careful with that and really just listen to the conversations. I'm not opposed to eavesdropping. I don't know about you ladies, but when the kids are playing in the room, I might just stand right outside the door and just listen, even with their friends, just to figure out what the conversation is about, so that you can be aware if there's some bullying going on.
Absolutely. And along with the bullying, sometimes young people are bullied because of the hormonal changes and the lapses in hygiene. That is the point where between the ages of the grades of 4th through 6th grade, where they have different aromas now.
Oh, yes.
When it gets warm, it gets a little different smelling. And so sometimes, other kids are going to say, oh, you smell oniony, or, some other fragrance or aroma. So we could cut down on bullying if we teach our children at home. Every morning, you're going to have to take that shower now. You can't take that shower just at night, like when you were a little baby. You got to wash off that nighttime aroma.
Yes.
And then you got to also
Respect.
take one when you get home. And you have to use deodorant now. You have to make sure that you use lotion. So these are some of the things that, and toothpaste, and brush your teeth.
Yes.
And make sure you wash your hair and your hands and things of that nature, because those are sometimes the origin of bullying. Okay, so let's look at 7th through 8th grade.
Well, 7th through 8th grade, there's that social media. Yes. The children have had their cell phone now for several years. They have smartphones and things of that nature, and there's that Snapchat. Be aware of the followers on Snapchat and what your children are actually doing to get these followers. What I've noticed these days is that children will do almost anything to become popular because they want to have followers, they want to trend, they want to have as many likes as possible. So although they see this as, maybe it's just playful and things, sometimes I've seen where children have gone to the extreme just to be noticed. Right. And be ever so mindful of different apps like Periscope, because although they might think they're only chatting with their immediate friends, anyone around the world can tap into where your child is and find their exact spot and come to that exact location. And so I know social media is something that they think is a part of who they are now, but as a parent and even as educators, as concerned citizens and adults, be mindful of what these children are exposing themselves to and who they're exposing themselves to, because once it's on the internet or once it's out there, and people can unfortunately prey on your children or your child when they're using social media apps. So that's one of my biggest concerns that I see with the children I tutor, with the children I see in my area. I always see children Facebook Living as they're walking down the streets. And it just exposes them to things that I don't believe they're totally aware of. So make sure you have those serious conversations of exposing themselves.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think with social media, like with everything, there can be a good side to it. It always has to be monitored. But if they are becoming involved in their extracurricular activities, maybe that's an opportunity for them to get on social media about that, about their soccer game or preparing for cheerleading or dance or whatever it is. And then you can have your family members, follow them and keep an eye on them as well. Yes. That way they can still get a lot of followers, a lot of likes and comments, and opened on Snapchat. I don't know. I know you can look at it, but maybe not reply, and they want everybody to reply. So you can encourage family members to do that, and just try to have a positive spin. I know they'll always will be one step ahead, and we have to just keep trying to catch up with that. But we do the best we can, right? And
I think one of the good points about relatives responding to a child's Snapchat is to let the child know that your family does see your Snapchat. I see what you just made that video of. Yes. I saw that. So the interesting part is that it may curb the behavior, and that's a great way to monitor it. Early on, my daughter didn't want me to be a part of her social media, but I said, no, I need to monitor. And it was a good thing because she did have an early bullying experience, and I was able to chime right in and back the little girl down from bullying her. So that worked out. But of course, they want to be independent, but we have to give them the right guidance in their independence. So let's look at high school. We want to talk briefly about that, and then we're going to talk about college. Okay?
All right, so as far as high school goes, like we already said, and I'm echoing this, there's a certain level of independence that your children should have by this point. But please remember, you're still parents. And it goes back to that PG again, parental guidance. When your children are spending a lot of time at different friends' houses, I impress upon you to get to know the parents, know who these parents truly are as much as possible. Know where the friends of your children actually live. Share your telephone numbers with the people that they're involved with, so you know that they're as safe as possible. Unfortunately, we have an epidemic with a lot of different drugs going on. A lot of recreational drugs that have been that are synthetic and some not synthetic. So much so that now there's been talk about actually having Narcan within the schools to help children if they're overdosing. That says that we have a truly serious challenge. So as a parent, I just impress upon you to know your children's friends, to know those friends' family, and to have an open relationship with these people, just to add a certain level of protection for your children while they're in high school.
Okay. I talked about this in the book. My parents would host the parties at our house, so that way they could monitor everything we were doing. We had fun, we had music, we had DJ, food, everything. But they were able to see what we were doing. They gave us a little space, but not so much that we could get ourselves in trouble. And I think it is important, again, to monitor, and this is a good way to do it.
Absolutely. And along with that, while the students are in high school, sometimes students have this thing where they think that junior and senior year is when you should just start looking at college preparation. You should start looking at college preparation as early as middle school, but definitely in freshman year. Students should be able to have a roadmap of what making freshman year worth it will be like sophomore, junior, senior year, extracurricular activities, sports, getting those good grades. And that would help the students to actually put themselves in the right predicament to do well in college. So in our last few seconds, I want to deal with college and beyond. So can you briefly talk about that?
So I talked a lot about parental guidance and things, but in the book I also talk about college and beyond, that beyond period where some children may not want or be ready to go straight to college after high school. In the book I talk about a gap year, but something else I noticed is that county colleges have non-matriculated courses that your child can actually attend one at a time, just to know that they are ready to be prepared for a larger college experience. So if your child appears not to be ready, instead of putting out a lot of money and them possibly not doing well, take that time to see what it is that they want to do and can do. Be open to gap years and be open to maybe one class at a time, and even taking free online classes with MIT or Coursera just to get them ready for that possible college experience instead of rushing them right in.
Right.
Okay, and I would say just work with them on setting up their schedule, and if they want to work, I think this is a great time for them to do it. And if you could call friends and see if there is anybody you know who might be able to help them get a job, help them build their skills, maybe find a mentor at that time as well.
Okay, my daughter is a junior in college right now, and she's having an issue. We can't just let our kids fend for themselves just because they're 18. She's 20, but I have to help her with a water crisis. Her apartment complex, Cedar Ridge, owned by the Lutz Company, they have the water contaminated. It's yellow, it's brown. You have to, as a parent, help them to model calling the EPA and calling the news, which is what my daughter did. And in closing, what I want to do is I want to give you the information about our website and also on social media. Our website is www.helpmellc.org. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at helpmellc. And I hope that you have grown and gained some vital tips on how to make sure that your child is successful at home and at school. Please be a very involved parent and make sure that you model the behavior that you want to see in your child. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, my name is Sharonda Allen with #HelpMe, a parent's guide for navigating the school experience through the eyes of teachers.